And counting until the fiscal cliff is upon us. But our next guest says, going over that cliff, he gives it a thumbs up. Peter Schiff is at Euro Pacific Capital. He's the CEO and chief global strategist. Why in the heck would you think that?
Well, first of all, we need a bigger cliff. This one is actually too small. But unfortunately, there's not enough spending cuts here. The spending cuts are trivial, and in fact, they're not really cuts. They're simply reductions in the rate of increase. Now, I don't want to trivialize the size of the tax hikes. They're big, and they're going to hurt. But unfortunately, they need to be big. They need to be bigger because we have an enormous government. We're spending a fortune. And if we want a huge government, if we want all this free stuff provided to so many people, it costs money. And unfortunately, you can't get that money just from the rich. You've got to get it from the middle class and the working poor. So if President Obama wants all this government, it has to be paid for. And it can't be paid for by rich people. So we need tax increases on everybody if we're not going to cut spending.
So, Peter, you would let all of the Bush-era tax cuts expire, every single one of them?
Well, if we're going to spend all this money, then yes. I think that taxes are less damaging to the economy than the deficits that replace them. But the real problem is the spending. The reason that taxes have to go up is because the government is spending so much money. And so if your taxes go up and you're upset, then stop voting for politicians who promise something for nothing.
So much of that spending is already just built into our future. Medicare, for example, is 13.5%, 14% of government spending as it is. So are we destined then for much higher taxes? I mean, forget high tax bracket rates of close to 40%. Let's start talking about 60%, right? Because we're never going to be able to cut this government spending because we've become addicted to it.
Yeah, we're going to pay the tax in one way or another. Either we're going to pay it legitimately or we're going to pay it through inflation, because they're not going to have the integrity to raise taxes. They're going to crank up the printing presses, and they're going to take our purchasing power, not our money. So prices are going to go through the roof, and the increase in the price of everything you have to buy is simply going to be another tax in disguise. We actually need to cut Medicare. We need to cut Social Security. Not in the future. We need to cut the checks that people are getting right now, because we don't have the money, and if the only way we can pay is if we raise taxes on the very people that nobody wants to tax.
Long-term interest rates are close to 1.5%. It's not going to happen. Not now.
Well, they're only down now. What happens when they're 10%? What happens when they're 15%? How long can the Fed keep interest rates artificially low when they have to print money to do it? If you keep destroying the value of money and creating inflation, rates are going to have to go up. In the meantime, these low interest rates are destroying the economy. We need higher interest rates. We're never going to have a real recovery until we have higher interest rates, but the politicians and the bankers haven't figured that out yet. So they keep pouring gasoline on a fire, expecting the fire to go out, but it keeps getting bigger.
Peter, good to see you. Always on fire. Peter Schiff. See you soon.
Thanks.